What is going on, YouTube? Coming back today with my next NBA draft scouting report video. So today I'm going to do Ben Simmons, which honestly is probably the, I wouldn't say the hardest one to do, but maybe the most complicated. So go ahead and start with just his background information, stats from last year, that sort of thing. So he's a freshman from LSU, number one recruit going into this past year. Gave LSU all sorts of hype going into the season, which obviously did not pan out, losing 71-38 in their final game. I think it was Texas A&M. I need to look on that, though. But anyway, 6'10", 240, got good size. He's from Australia. He's got a 6'11" to 7-foot wingspan, depending on who you ask. So, yeah, let's see here. Yeah, I lost to Texas A&M 71-38. Game was actually kind of close at first, which is the weird part. All right, so last year he averaged about 19.2 points per game, about 12 rebounds and 5 assists, so very solid stats, especially for a power forward, showing that he can work as a facilitator a little bit, while also he got to the free throw line about 9 times per game, which is also very good also. But you got to realize how much he had the ball in his hands during his time at LSU. He was by far the best player they had. All right, so getting to the strengths. First one is he's quick and athletic for a power forward. If you watched him play at all this year, you saw him work a lot of times just as a point guard or a shooting guard. A lot of times he was the facilitator coming down the court. He was the guy running in transition with the ball, and he's actually very good at that. He's got a good slashing move, and he's overall just very fast, and he has great leaping ability as well. He's only got about an 8'7" standing reach, which honestly isn't that much for how tall he is. I was discussing Brandon Ingram yesterday, who is actually about an inch shorter than Ben Simmons, but has about 6 or 7 inches on his standing reach. So not the best wingspan for a guy that big. So the second one is he's showed ability to play all 5 positions. I kind of said this a little bit, or kind of mentioned this, but he can play at the 1 or the 2. Like, I mean, obviously not start there, but he can effectively fit the role of a 1 or a 2, especially shooting from mid-range, as long as he doesn't have to draw out to the three-point line too much. I guess the 2 would probably be his worst position, but he can handle the ball well. He's got good dribbling ability. Like I said, he's athletic. He can drive. He can pass the ball well, and he's honestly a pretty good mid-range shooter, and something he doesn't get credit for a whole lot. And obviously he's big. He can play the power forward position pretty well, and he can also post up pretty well. He's a good inside scorer. He's also very good at boxing out, which at times it looked like he was playing the 5 for LSU. Third one is he's solid on defense. Now, I'll get into this a little bit more on one of his weaknesses. He's not always solid all the time, but he's got the athletic ability. He's got the lateral quickness. He's got the fundamentals down. Pretty much everything you need. He can box out. He can rebound well. Everything you need, maybe besides blocking. I think that's his one downside on defense. But all that stuff leading up to being a very, very good defensive power forward. When you're talking about some of the smaller power forwards in the NBA, I don't think he's going to have a problem covering him at all. Like I said, the blocks might be a problem eventually, but overall, I think he's one of the most solid defenders. He was one of the most solid defenders at the 4 in college basketball this past year. Again, something he doesn't get credit for a whole lot. All right, fourth strength is he's quick, big hands, and finishes well at the rim. Again, good. He's got great leaping ability. He's got he's got big hands. He's got quick hands, and he's just overall a very quick player. Which, combined with his slashing ability, slashing potential, just overall driving, or just his overall drive to the rim, it makes for a very good combination when you're talking about it. Maybe a little bit of LeBron James type ability on offense when he has the ball outside of the free throw line and maybe outside of the 3-point line. So next one is he's a great inside to mid-range scorer. Again, I'll get into this a little bit when I talk about his weaknesses, but again, 56% field goal percentage. Like, his shooting wasn't bad. 3-point percentage was a little bit rough at about 33%, but no one's ever said 3-point shooting was one of his biggest strengths. He's got a good jump hook. I think the post moves could use a little bit of touching up, but he's got good fundamental footwork in the post. Like I said, the slashing ability is there. He's got a great first step. He can get by a lot of defenders at the elbow, at the free throw line, that sort of place. And normally when it's just a pull-up shooter, or when it's just a pull-up shot, and if he actually is able to get that killer instinct on a consistent basis, that's one of the things he's lacking a little bit. If he can get that killer instinct and have a little bit more confidence in his jump shot, especially from mid-range, then he's got the ability to be maybe like a 45 to 50% shooter from about 10, 12 feet. All right, so get into some of his weaknesses. So there are actually a lot of weaknesses that you can cover with Ben Simmons. He's got a very high ceiling, but at the same time, he's not a very polished player. He didn't develop very well at LSU, if I'm honest. Johnny Jones, I don't think, is a great developmental head coach, and I don't know if he made the right college choice, but anyway, he's only 19 years old. He's got time to improve on that. So first weakness is he's a little bit reluctant on his shooting. This is one of the biggest things when you watch film of him. He airballs it a lot. He dishes the ball off a lot when he has an open shot. Just seems like, again, talking about that killer instinct, it just seems like a lot of times it's not there. And especially if he wants to be the guy, the face of the franchise, which he's probably going to be if he's number 1 overall pick, then he's got to be able to have that killer instinct. He's got to be able to be that guy that wants to take the shot at the last second. He's got the ability to. Like I said, just the killer instinct, the confidence consistently in his jump shot needs to be there. He needs to kind of take smarter shots, get his timing down a little bit better with the jump shot, especially from mid-range, and sometimes when he's driving from about 8 to 10 feet. Some of the jumpers looked real ugly, looked real hesitant, and again, something you can't have when you're probably a guy that's taken 12 to 15 field goals per game. Second one is he avoids contact, and a lot of this goes by defenders' strategy against him. One of the big things about Ben Simmons when he takes it out beyond the three-point line is he's not going to be shooting from beyond the three-point line. And a lot of defenders figured out how to play him as a facilitator or as a driver to the rim. They, like I said, shot off on contact a little bit, locked off all the adjacents, and let Ben Simmons just do what he could against them. Like I said, he rushed jump shots sometimes where they didn't look pretty, or sometimes it was really reluctant, and a lot of times that adds up to a very, very poor looking shot. And a lot of times where he could have drawn some contact onto the free throw line on a drive, he just backed away, ended up taking a fader from about 8 to 10 feet. Again, if you watch his film, you can notice what I'm talking about. It just, some turned into air balls, some turned into lost passes that it looked like. Okay, slow down for a second here. So a lot of the times when he looked like he was about to take a 8 to 10 foot jumper, maybe even an open jumper, he passed it off in the middle of his jump shot. Like he'd be at the top of his shooting, looked like at the peak of his shooting stroke, and he would literally just pass it off. Just sometimes, like I said, killer instinct just sometimes doesn't look like it's there. And a lot of times when he was driving in, he could have taken the contact, and especially with his good size and strength, he probably could have gotten the foul or gotten the actual layup. But instead, he decided to draw out a little bit, take about the 8 to 10 foot fader, sometimes maybe 5 or 6, and just miss when he could have had easy points. Again, a lot of times that was just chalked up to defenders knowing how to play him. Third one is he doesn't have great size for post defense. When you're talking about some of the bigger guys in the NBA, some of the bigger wingspans, if you're talking about trying to make him defend like a Hassan Whiteside or an Andre Drummond or DeMarcus Cousins, some of the bigger guys in the post. Even if you're talking about power forward, if you want to defend guys like Anthony Davis or I guess Al Horford, Paul Millsap types, then it's going to be hard for him. He doesn't have that wingspan. The blocking ability isn't. I don't think it's quite there yet. I don't know if it ever will be. He only had about 0.8 blocks per game. For putting up 12 rebounds and playing at the 4 or the 5 a lot. That's maybe not the most desired stat, but I think that he'll learn how to use his leaping ability, and I think the defensive fundamentals will come along to the point eventually where he's able to back off, or he's able to stand up to some of the bigger guys in the NBA and be able to hang with some of the better interior scorers. So the fourth weakness is poor effort and awareness at times. There are just times where it looked like he takes plays off on defense. Could be chalked up to heavy minutes at LSU, about 35 minutes per game. That is some heavy minutes considering he was, like I said, far and away their best player. Sometimes I just think that he is too worried about offense, he's too worried about transition, and just takes his mind completely off defense. I don't know if he's got the James Harden attitude, but and sometimes, like I said, he just makes passes that look pretty boneheaded. He gets a little, the whole flashover substance thing really shines through with him sometimes when he has open shots, or maybe when he has the ability to get through a defender, he might just have to work a little bit. Sometimes he just dumps the ball off instead and gets a turnover. So, again, something that I think will be fixed. Again, this is a guy who's only 19 years old. He will develop well in the NBA, in my opinion. And, again, I think just freshman mistakes. So the fifth one is leadership. And then, honestly, this one's just more of like question marks as being the face of a franchise. Some of the weaknesses bring up some red flags about him as a face of a franchise, as the guy that you need to have killer instinct, as the guy that you need to be able to draw out, stretch the floor, and, you know, take, like I said, 12 to 15 shots per game. And, you know, if I think his shooting will improve. I think that whole killer instinct will get better. This seems like the type of guy with his level of basketball instincts and his level of general awareness, when he's actually got that high energy going, I don't think that it's a question mark that's going to be there for a very long time. But also I think he needs to find the right situation to be in. Look at his averages. The fact that he was able to get almost 20 points per game, 12 rebounds, and 5 assists shows that he's got ability really all over the floor. And shooting 56%, you know, it's a very good percentage. Like I said, I don't think he gets enough credit for his inside mid-range scoring ability. It is one of his strengths, and a lot of people criticize him for it. So, talk about some of his NBA projections. I think he's going to go as the number 1 overall pick. I've done 3 mock drafts now, and every single time I've had him as the number 1 pick, some people say it's going to be Brandon Ingram. I still think Ben Simmons is the player with the higher ceiling. I don't know if and overall I think he is more polished right now. As a fit, though, I do think that he would honestly fit better in LA than he would in Philly. I mean, you're looking at a front court in Philly right now that's got 3 former top 3 picks. You know, Joel Embiid, Nerlens Noel, and Jahlil Okafor. You don't need another 4 or a 5 there. I think Brandon Ingram would be a much better fit in Philly, just because you'd be able to really stack up the 3 to 5 positions in Philly. LA, I think they're in need of a guy that can slot in at the 4. I don't know if Julius Randle is the long-term answer there. They need a guy like Ben Simmons that has that high-end potential. Really, I think he had one of the few guys I think that would be in LA that would have his head screwed on straight also. And one guy just for LA to just know that, you know, if they find the right coach and they find the right supporting cast, he will develop right, and I think Ben Simmons is that guy. For me, I think Ben Simmons, you're looking around at 12 to 14 points per game during his rookie year, and I think about 8 rebounds, and I think I think you're looking at about maybe 13 points per game, 8 to 9 rebounds, and probably about 4 to 5 assists. This is a guy that can be a double-double machine in the NBA. I think the Draymond Green comparison is a very good one. There are differences there, but there's a lot of similarities also. They both can drive. They're both extremely aggressive when it comes to the first step. And I think while Draymond Green wasn't drafted extremely high, or wasn't considered to be drafted extremely highly out of college, I think Ben Simmons can develop that defense and that nose for the ball that Draymond Green has going for him in Golden State right now. The LeBron James comparison's been made a lot. I don't really see it. I guess the poor man LeBron James comparison can be made to some parts of his game. When you're talking about the just overall level of basketball IQ, basketball vision on the court, and that driving ability, that athleticism to play really any one of the 5 positions on the court. So that pretty much does it. Like I said, it's a complicated situation with Ben Simmons. It's hard to come up with comparisons. It's hard to figure out where he's going to go in the draft, whether it's going to be at the 1 or the 2, or 1 or 2. Probably going to be 1. If I'm honest, I think like I said, I still think he's the best player in the draft. But when you're talking about fits, like which team or which player would fit each team's need, I think Brandon Ingram 1 and then Ben Simmons 2 is actually the better fit. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Tomorrow I will be coming back with Tyler Ulis. So should be an interesting video there. A guy that's seen his draft stock rise very highly in the last couple weeks. And later today, we'll be coming back with my Jalen Ramsey NFL draft scouting report. If you have not seen the rest of them yet, I've done Buddy Hield, Brandon Ingram, Jalen Brown, and Ivan Rabb. I'm going to post the link to the entire playlist for my NBA draft scouting reports in the description below, and also the last two, Buddy Hield and Brandon Ingram, will be in the outro. So that's pretty much it. See ya. Here that I will be going through, and when I actually do my scouting report update video, I'll say who all I'm doing in that video. But I've already done Rabb, Jalen Brown, Buddy Hield, now Brandon Ingram, and then tomorrow will be Ben Simmons. So, give you a little bit of background information about Brandon Ingram himself. He is a